Hello, everybody. It's Kyla again, and welcome to The Ghosts That Haunt Me. And I hope you're in the mood for some stories today, because I do have a few. Today, we're going to be talking about dreams. So, are they paranormal? Aren't they? Are they both? Who knows? So, I do have some stories, and I hope that you will enjoy them. So, grab your hot beverage, like I have mine here, and then we will get going. Yum. Okay, first and foremost, I want to apologize for this thing on my head that I call hair. Today I'm having a very uncooperative hair day, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna throw a hat on. So when you have a bad hair day, what's the best thing? You throw a hat on. Lucky for me, I have a very good head for hats, so, and it goes great with this sweater. So I, love this sweater. So I finally found a hat to go with it. So yeah, and I also just stupidly had a whole bunch of popcorn, so hopefully I don't have choke on any kernels or anything in the back there. So, but my dad and my brother yesterday, they went out to the movies and they brought home some popcorn for me that they didn't finish while they were in the theater. And last night I took that salt and vinegar sprinkle stuff, and I went all through the bag and I shook the bag up, and I was like, now we're just gonna sit overnight and let all the salt and vinegar sort of seep into the little kernels and the holes and the pockets and all the popcorn. And yeah, I just had some, and it's fantastic. If you like salt and vinegar, it's fantastic. But I shouldn't have probably had it before I started this. Because now I got popcorn right back here. So if I start choking, I'm choking on old popcorn. Okay. So I had to move the light a little bit because it was covering up this picture of the skull over here. And this is one of my favorite paintings, actually. This is by an artist named Jordan Campbell. Absolutely loved it. And he had some work up in a cafe. And I looked at all of it, and it was all beautiful and huge and big, but this small little 8x10 one was in my price range. So I called him up and I'm like, hey, can I buy this one from you? He's like, sure. so, so I have an original Jordan Campbell. These ones over here are Megan Ray. She's fabulous. And I believe that artist over there is Brandon Ross. So I love local talent. I love local artists. And the leaves here, that's my grandma's. Yep, her name was Eleanor. And actually, this is her photo right over here. And yeah, that's one grandma. This is my mother. And over there is another grandmother. So I surround myself with art. I love it very much. And yeah, so I had to make sure that I could see my skull in the camera over here. So now that I can, we shall continue. So originally, I was not going to do a thing on dreams today. I was going to do something entirely different. It was another ghost exploring adventure that I took with my brother, and I was going to talk about that. But I had, well, a dream earlier this week that really grabbed my attention to the point that I thought maybe I should talk a little bit about this. It's like, it stuck with me to the point that I think that it meant something or that it was something. But at the same time, I'm not sure. So I thought I'd maybe pick that debate up, and I would love to. What I'm basically going to do is I'm going to talk about certain things. I don't want to get into the scientific part of it so much because I don't really know a lot about that. I don't want to talk about something that I really know zero about. I don't want to talk about REM sleep. I don't want to talk about any of that kind of stuff. It's just going to be a few things that I can relate to because I may have had similar experiences with the dreams in that way. And I'm going to talk about certain dreams that I've had. So I've written them down, and I just would like to share those with you. And I would really, really love to hear if you want to put a dream or something or some sort of comment about what you think dreaming is in the comment section. I would love to hear that. So yeah, I'll start with lucid dreaming and we'll go from there. So, what exactly is lucid dreaming? Basically, lucid dreaming is the ability to be able to control your dreams. It's like being able to combine aspects of your wakeful life and your sleeping life together. So you can, your dreaming and your waking self are kind of coming together, and you are able to control it. And I know this is a factual thing. This is actually something that people can do. I do envy them. I know people who can do this, and they usually have like a trigger. Like if they are in a dream and all of a sudden they see a certain kind of fence, or they see a certain make of tree or something like that. Something that is like a trigger to them. And they'll go and they'll see that fence and they'll be like, this is a dream and I can do whatever I want. And they're able to control what they do in the dream. And that's something I don't think I've ever been able really to do. I do envy it. I've thought about it, you know, where you're just like, okay, before I go to sleep, if I see like a calico cat, then I know I'm dreaming, and it never works for me. The closest I came was when I was age 18, and I had a dream that I don't know necessarily the word I was able to control the dream, but something did happen that made me aware that it was a dream. Now, this dream came to me when I was 18 years old, and in order to understand why this dream is actually quite terrifying for me, you'd have to understand a little bit of my backstory. I have a fear of syringes. Actually, I don't have a fear of syringes. I have a phobia of syringes. Not so much, I mean, I've got tattoos. It's not the needle part. You know, I've sewn like a button on. That's basically all I can sew. But, you know, I've sewn a button on a shirt or something like that. So it's not the needle part. I don't know what it is. There's something about seeing the syringe, and it freaks me the hell out. Just freaks me the hell out to know that this thing is going into my body and into my bloodstream and all this kind of crap. And I was absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. So I'd have to say that it was a fear. And then when I was 17, I went and had my wisdom teeth removed, and I had to have it surgery because they had to be dug out. The dental surgeon who did the surgery for me, very long story short, basically I'll just say he took it from a fear to my fear of needles and syringes to a full-blown terrorizing phobia. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, I've had some surgery, so I've had to have tests and blood tests and all that kind of fun stuff since. And I'm not pleasant. But I'm getting better. So nowadays, I'm not as scared as I used to be, but I'm still very, very bad. I've stopped hitting the nurses, which is a good thing. Now I just cry a lot. But I've threatened, and I've screamed, and I've cried, and I just have a full-blown terror of syringes. Actually, after the one surgery that I had to have all these blood tests and everything, it was required that I inject blood thinners into my stomach. That was not fun. So I couldn't do it. I had to get somebody else to do it for me. And I was just, like, that's how bad it is. I just cannot do it. I still have to go for blood tests because of the surgery and make sure that everything's all right and whatnot. But I am not a pleasant person. I cry all the time and I just panic. And so in order to understand that, and when I was 18, this phobia was full tilt, brand new, screaming, hollering terror. Every time I saw a syringe, it didn't even have to have the needle in it. I just had to see that thing, that plunger thing, and I would seize up and freak and scream and cry. So, again, better now. Not good, not perfect. Still don't like them. Still afraid of them. Still cry, but less violent. So. So I'm better now, but we're talking about the time when it was still fresh. Now this dream, and I don't know why why I had this dream. I don't know what prompted it, but I was being chased by several people. And it was, it was one of those dreams where you're running away, you're being chased. So originally I would have just thought, okay, this is just a dream where you're being chased by somebody. I've had several of those dreams. They're just dreams. But this dream was people chasing me to inject me with poison. So they all had syringes in their hands chasing after me, and the syringes were going to kill me. So I'm literally running from place to place. I'm hiding here, I'm hiding there, and I finally get into this room, and I slam the door shut, and I lock it, and I'm like literally holding up, trying to stop them from getting in, because all these people, you're hearing like bang bang, and they're like a horror movie where like bang bang, and they're trying to break into the door, and you're holding onto it for all your words, trying not to let these people in. And it was just like, the panic running through me, going I was just absolutely terrified that these people were going to kill me with syringes. And I was losing my mind, and I was panicking, and I was just, with every ounce of strength that I felt I had, I was just trying to hold this door closed while several people on the other side are trying to bang through it to get me. And then all of a sudden I heard, Kyla. And it was coming from behind me. So I turned around, my back to the door to try and keep them out, and I looked at the person who was calling my name, and it was me. So I was looking at myself talking to me. Now, I'm not a twin. There is only one of me. So that's when my brain suddenly went, okay, something's up. Why am I over there when I'm over here? You know, like it was like, okay, this is weird. And I was just like, so I'm looking at myself talking to me. And I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, this is a dream. And you can wake up anytime you want to. So wake up. Wake up now. And I woke up. So in all honesty, I'm not 100% sure that this was a lucid dream, but it was something that I knew wasn't normal, caught me off guard, and I went, okay, and then this person told me that it was a dream, and I was able to get out of it unscathed and without fear, and knowing that these people really can't hurt me. So I'd like to think that that was some form of lucid dreaming, but at the same time, I mean, that is an actual scientific thing. People do have lucid dreams. I don't. That's as close as I came, but I'm kind of thinking it might have been paranormal. I honestly think that the person who was talking to me was a spirit guide, was one of my spirit guides, and they made themselves look like me in order to catch my attention. Because like I said, I'm not a twin. So therefore, if I see myself talking to me and I'm not looking into a mirror, something's up, right? So, and like I said, the other time where I had an experience where I heard a voice, and the voice sounded like Marilyn Monroe, and I think that it was my spirit guide or something telling me in a voice that I could recognize and feel calm. And I think that this might have been something similar. Like one of my spirit guides was doing this because they could feel my fear, and this spirit knew what I was putting myself through unnecessarily. So I think they did that to try to jolt me into a reality going, what is going on? This is not me. I'm here. Who's that type of thing? And just sort of calm me down so that they can tell me, this isn't real. Calm down and wake up and you will be just fine. So I honestly think that that's might have been what it was. Less a lucid dream and more spiritual help to get me out of the dream I was in. But I do envy people who can do lucid dreaming. I wish I could do it. I wish I could, be having like, if I'm having a nightmare or something, I see like a certain color of brick in the wall or something, and I go, oh, I'm dreaming. All of a sudden, the nightmare can stop and everybody has spaghetti for hair or something like that, something stupid, because that's what I do. I cover up bad things with bad humor. So, but yeah, I haven't been able to do it. So I've tried. I haven't tried in a while. Maybe I'll try again. Now, the other thing I'd like to get to is called the flying dreams, where you're flying through the air. And I've often wondered if flying dreams are just out-of-body experiences. My father used to have out-of-body experiences all the time. He told me this one time. He said that I had one that I can guarantee you was an out-of-body experience, and I will talk about that. But my dad, when I told him about it, he was like, oh yeah, I used to go flying all the time. He told me when he was a young boy, he would go flying all over the place. He says, I traveled all over the world and all this kind of stuff. And that surprised me, because I didn't think that my dad was, like, I know he likes to fly. I just didn't know he liked to fly that way. So, but yeah, my out-of-body experience caught me completely by surprise, to the point where I was scared, because I wasn't planning on doing it. It just sort of happened, where I was in my apartment in a city, and I lived on the 19th floor, and I was lying in bed, and I thought I was sleeping, and all of a sudden I felt this really cool breeze. And I open my eyes and I look up and I see the sky, the night sky. And I'm like, what the, and I could feel the breeze. I used to live in an apartment or a building right by the water, by the lake. And I could feel the breeze of the cool air from the water. And I could feel the temperature, and I could feel my legs were getting cold and my feet were getting cold. And I'm like, what is going on? So I look down like this, and I see 19 floors below me. I see the ground. So I panicked. I was like, what the hell? And then all of a sudden it felt like something here, like I was on a cord or something, pulled. And I just went like that. and I just sort of flung myself forward. And next thing I know, I felt like a big jolt on my chest, and I was like sort of sat up in bed going, you know, and it felt sore. Well, there's no bruising or anything. It just felt sore, like somebody had just sort of like that. And I was like, what the hell was that? And so I told my father that, and he was like, see, that's a memory. You felt the wind, and you felt the breeze, and you felt and he was saying, and you could sense it, you could smell it, he says, you don't get all that from dreams. That's how you know this was an actual thing. You could feel it. And he says, that's a memory, that's not a dream. And I thought that was an interesting way of putting it. I've never been able to consciously do it again. And that kills me, because now that I'm aware that it can happen, I want to do it again. But for whatever reason, I can't. It's just not working out. I have a hard time meditating. My brain, literally, it's like, okay, relax and meditate. So I don't know if that's how you can do it, is through meditation, but my brain is like a hamster on a wheel. It just never stops. So I have trouble relaxing enough to do something like that. So that sucks. And I can't help but wonder if this particular flying dream that I'm going to tell you was actually an out-of-body experience, because I've had flying dreams before, but not like this one. Like, these are dreams that I've had long ago or recently, but they've been so ingrained in my brain. And I used to write my dreams down, but I can't be bothered. Like, it's like literally like, I know I should, but I don't, you know, like, and this was one that was before I started writing my dreams down. And it's never left my mind, ever. It was that intense. The memory is that strong of this dream. And again, it was one of those ones. I felt the sun. I could feel sand on my toes. I felt it. I felt the emotions were very strong. And it just felt so real that I wonder if it was more of an out-of-body experience or some sort of dream dimensional thing or something. I honestly don't know. But it was 2005. And I remember it distinctly. I was flying over a desert road. And, you've seen those movies and stuff, places that I've always wanted to go, but I never have, where it's like a desert and you've got one strip of road running through it. That's what it was. It was just one strip of road, 2-lane road in a desert. So there was sand and there was cacti and all that kind of stuff all over the place. But other than that, there was nobody there. It was just desert. And I'm flying along, and I could feel the sun, and I could feel the heat, and it felt so good. And I'm just looking down at everything that I'm flying with. I'm flying with the birds. Like, I had a great time. I was having a good time. And then I noticed one person on the ground over there. And they were so far away. I was so high up, but I wanted to go and see this person. So I flew down gently like a bird, flowing down. This person's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I flew down and landed on my feet. And it wasn't like, jumping out of a plane where you land and you do the tuck and roll. I just landed and stood there and looked up at this enormous human being. And if you ask me to tell you what he looked like, I can't. Because the sun was right behind his head. I could tell it was male. And the most I can tell you is that the sun was right behind his head, but he had dreadlocks, like long, and we're talking long dreadlocks. I'm assuming his hair was dark. It reminded me of Rob Zombie. If you know the singer-director Rob Zombie, he's got that long hair. It's all kind of dreadlocks and straggly and stuff like that. That's what it was. And just the way the shadow hit his face, I'm thinking he had facial hair. Not big bushy, beard or anything, but I feel like there was facial hair there. What I could see, it looked like there was. Or it was just his dreads coming forward. But I'm thinking it was male, and I think there was facial hair, and I remember those were very distinctive. And I remember even in that state, in the dream state or whatever state this was, I remember looking up at this guy who was about 8 feet tall, thinking, this reminds me of Rob Zombie. And the jacket he was wearing, actually it was a coat, it was a full length from his shoulders, neck, all the way down to the ground, black leather. And I remember thinking, how is this guy not so hot? Like we're in the middle of the desert in the daytime. This is hot. How can he not be sweating to death here? And I just remember looking up at this giant man. I'm 4'11", so this guy is huge if he's 8 feet tall. And I'm just like looking up at this guy and looking up, and I want to see his face. There was nothing said between us, no words were exchanged. I felt no fear whatsoever. I just know that I had to see this man's face. So I moved like this to try and go around the sun so I could see him. So when he turned his head, I could see his face. But when I did that, he moved his whole body and stood in front of the sun again. So I couldn't see his face. So then I did this, and he did the same thing. And I think maybe 3 or 4 times I tried to do it, just trying to, I want to see this guy's face. For me, that was the most important thing, is I had to see this man's face. And I never did. There was no words. We just looked at each other. I was curious. I felt the warmth. I felt the sun. I felt the sand. I just could not see his face. I just remember being so curious as to, and then I was getting curious as to why he wouldn't let me see his face. So that's where I woke up. I didn't go flying away again. I never spoke to this person or anything like that. I just remember after that I woke up. And I did tell somebody once about this, and I was like, I've always wanted to know who this person was. I said, and the only one I can compare it to is Rob Zombie. And if you know the wrestler The Undertaker, that kind of a trench coat, that was what he was wearing, was like from here down, black leather. I was like, he was like he was wearing The Undertaker's coat and Rob Zombie's hair. Like, that's all I can tell you. But it's not like I was afraid of this guy. I mean, I'm goth in my heart still. I'm still goth. So, I was like, maybe that's why I wasn't afraid of him. I don't know. And this person who, she claimed to be a psychic, she had told me that what she was getting from what I was telling her was that this was a spirit guide, one of my spirit guides. And he didn't talk to me because I didn't need to be told anything. He was just checking up on me. My curiosity got the better of me, and I started thinking that it might not be a spirit guide for me, but maybe somebody from another dimension. This is just me spitting out stuff. I've never heard this theory before. It was just something that I thought of, was like maybe I was doing an out-of-body experience and I was actually flying. My spirit was flying, and I flew into another dimension, kind of like, what was a DC comic that had Bizarro World where everything was different? Maybe something similar to that, where I'm in this other person's spiritual realm, and maybe he was looking at me like, who the hell are you? I don't know. So I mean, that's just a thought. It's just as wild a theory as I guess anything else, but it's something that I thought about, that maybe it was possible. Maybe I was the interloper in someone else's dimension while I was, having an out-of-body experience. I don't know. On the one funny side note to this, though, because I had the dreadlocks and everything, I had compared him so much to Rob Zombie. I was expecting Rob Zombie to be this enormous man. Like, he's such a huge personality as it is, and his music is right up my alley, and his movies are like horror movies, and so I pictured him to be this gigantic human being of a person, just enormous. And then I saw him for the first time in concert after I had this dream, and he wasn't. He was just an average sized person, and I was watching him on the stage going, this is a cool concert, but he's so short. My part of my brain was expecting him to be 8 feet tall, and I was very disappointed when he wasn't. So I'm sorry, Rob Zombie, I still love you, and I have seen you in concert after that, but yeah, you need to be 8 feet tall. Okay, now I want to get to premonitions. Now, can dreams predict the future? I don't know. I say sometimes, yeah, I would think so. I've had dreams that I'm just like, I'd have the dream, and then maybe a few months later, I'm like having massive deja vu, right down to like the words being said to me. And I'm like, I think I had a dream about this like a month ago or something. Like, this is serious, serious, serious deja vu. So I think sometimes, yeah, this particular dream, it wasn't just a few months later or a month later. This was the next day that this happened. And again, this was so impactful. I was about 7 or 8. I think I was 7 years old. And I still remember this dream vividly. Vividly. Okay, so the house that I used to live in at that age, you would look out the back window, which we had a living room. You look out the back window, which would lead to the backyard. And then beyond the backyard, after you pass the fence, was a street. And on this street, it was just a simple town, a small town with a small street. And it was like 99.9999999% of the time, it was quiet on this street. There was maybe like, a neighbor walking their dog or something, but, nothing bad ever happened on the street. Nothing, no violence, nothing like that ever happened on the street while I was a child. And in this dream, I'm looking out this back window with my father. He's looking out the window. I wonder what he's looking at. I walk over to the window to look out with him. And on the street is this man, and he didn't have a shirt on. He had jeans. He had a mustache and dark hair. And he kind of was flailing his arms a little bit, and he was yelling and saying nonsensical stuff. And he was freaking out and getting very, very angry. And he wasn't hurting himself, and he wasn't hurting other people, but I mean, his explosive reactions to whatever it was he was seeing was so violent that somebody, somewhere along the lines, I don't know, called the police. So the police showed up, and an ambulance showed up. And all of a sudden, he started screaming, "You're not going to take me alive. You're not going to take me alive." And he started to try and push everybody away. He tried to push the ambulance drivers away. He was trying to hit the cops, and he was trying to, hit them and get rid of them and all this kind of stuff. And he was screaming and screaming and screaming. And when he wasn't screaming, all he was yelling was, "You're not going to take me alive. You're not going to take me alive." And eventually the police, there was 2 cops, and they had to fight him, like wrestle him down to the ground. And they wrestled him to the ground, and they were able to get him on the stretcher. And they strapped him to the stretcher. I think they cuffed him in the front and strapped him to the stretcher, and he's screaming and screaming. I just remember so much screaming, like he was losing it. And even when they put him in the ambulance with our windows closed, I could hear this guy screaming even after they closed the ambulance door. And then they took him away. And that was the dream, basically. And then I looked up at my dad in the dream after they drove off. And I was like, what was wrong with him? And Dad looked at me and said, he clearly was on drugs, and this is how you act when you're on drugs. So I was like, oh, well, I guess I won't take drugs then. It's like kind of like that kind of attitude. And then I woke up, and that was it. That was the dream. And it was in the morning. And I got ready, going downstairs, gonna have breakfast. I go downstairs, and I go to turn to the kitchen, and I see my dad looking out the window. So I walk over to the window, and I see that exact man in the street, twitching, kind of convulsing a little bit, and screaming nonsensical words, just over and over and over again. And then the police showed up, the ambulance showed up, he's screaming, "You're not going to take me alive." They strap him to a stretcher, they throw him in the ambulance, and they take him away. And I was just like, and I look at my dad, and I'm like, what was that? And he looked at me, and he said, he must have been on drugs. That's what happens when you take drugs. And I was just like, I didn't have anything to say, because it was like, I just saw this in my dream, like not 5 hours ago or however long ago this dream was. I was like, what the, I'm 7 years old, so I'm not saying what I would say now, which is, what the fuck. I back then was like, huh? And I didn't say anything. I just let it go. But that dream had never, ever, ever left my head. At one time, someone had told me that everybody, every person that is in your dreams is somebody that you know or somebody that you have seen. Doesn't matter. I mean, it could be just mean somebody you've seen on the street, but you cannot have a dream and make up a person. And I don't buy that. I don't buy that. If it is true, then this was definitely a premonition and not a dream, because I can assure you 100% that I had never seen this man with the mustache. I had never seen the police that came and got him. I had never seen the ambulance driver before. In my 7 years of life, before that, I had never seen any of these people at all. So yeah, I can with 100% certainty, I can tell you, I've never seen those people before. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, this has got to be a premonition then, and not, yeah, it's just got to be a premonition and not a dream. Because, yeah, like I said, these people were strangers to me. So how could I dream of somebody, if that's true, that every dream you have with people in it, these are people that you know or people that you've seen, and I can assure you, and I know 100% with certainty, I'd never seen these people before. So who knows? And like I've said, I've had premonitory dreams before, but they weren't like this. This was very, very vivid and very descriptive. I've had premonitions, waking premonitions, but those come suddenly like that, and they just sort of hit you like a jolt. And then sometimes you usually just forget them. I've had a couple that stuck with me, that made me kind of what the hell. But no, that one really stuck with me. I mean, I was 7, so this we're talking about 40 years ago that I had this dream, and it's still there. It's still with me. So yeah, I think it was a premonition, and it's probably going to stay with me for the rest of my life. And speaking of memories and speaking of things that you'll never forget and things like that, I've often wondered if dreams can bring up memories that your waking mind can't handle. I know that sounds kind of weird, like it's just a regurgitation of a tragic event or a traumatic event that you don't want to remember. And that's something that pisses me off with psychologists who try and rip out these memories that are within you. It's like, well, maybe your waking brain is trying to forget for a reason. Maybe that is, a good thing. And using hypnosis and stuff to try and wrench out all these evil memories that you have from something that was so bad and traumatic, and it's just going to make you all crappy again. It's like, why do you need to remember it? So, and I sometimes wonder if dreams are that, like, they kind of, will slip out the memories and you just think they're dreams, so they're less harmful to your psyche. And if I want to go into the paranormal, I don't really have too many dreams like that. I've got one recurring dream, but if I want to go into the paranormal realm of that, I'd have to say, people who believe they've been abducted by aliens. They don't know it at first. They have that thing called missing time, and they don't know what happened. They'll see a light in the sky, all of a sudden 4 hours is gone. And then they'll start having nightmares after this incident, where they'll be like, I saw myself being abducted by aliens, and I saw all the horrific, things that they did to me when I was up on their spaceship and things like that. And it was just like, maybe it was in their dream state where they were able to remember this sort of thing, because in their waking state, their brains couldn't handle it and their emotions couldn't handle it, so they block it. But your dream state is something that opens up the doors, opens up the gates, and lets everything flood out. It's something I've thought of a lot, and I have had a recurring dream. Not so much now. It's died down now a little bit, but when I was younger, I had this dream starting at age 10, and poof, it just a lot, over and over again, from 10 till I'd have to say my 20s, and then it started to dwindle down. Now I don't have it very much at all anymore, but it was a memory, and it was, I guess for me, a traumatic event. In this dream, that started when I was 10, and I would have it, maybe 3 times a week after I had it for the first time. I was a child, a very small child, because I was in a car in the back seat, and I was in a car seat. So I was in this car seat, and all of a sudden I felt pressure from behind, and a huge jolt, an impact or something from behind, and it pushed me forward, and I just flew into the front seat. Well, not, I didn't fly into the back of the front seat. I was just kind of was like, I was wedged and I couldn't move. And I remember my foot hurt and I was just like, I was crying. Obviously, I started screaming and I was crying because, I'm now wedged and this thing is like right in front of me. And I remember looking over here and I saw silverware. Like I saw knives and forks, butter knives and forks, and they were all embedded into the passenger side back of the seat. And I was like, not quite understanding what was happening. I just know that I was now kind of crushed into this space. My foot hurt, and there were knives in the back seat, and I'm losing it. I'm like screaming and crying, and I see my dad, because my mom was driving, and I must have been obviously, and my dad was in the passenger seat, and he jumped out of the car. He got out of the car. And all of a sudden, I was like, okay, my dad's gone. What the hell? So I started crying even louder. And then I could hear my mom screaming over and over and over again, get Kyla out, get Kyla out, get Kyla out, get Kyla. And she's getting louder and louder. She's actually screaming above my screaming, just the same phrase, get Kyla out. And next thing I know, I don't remember being pulled out. I remember in this dream, all of a sudden, somebody is carrying me. I don't know who it was. It was a stranger. And I was extremely attached to my parents at that age, like very attached. I was an only child and mommy and daddy were all I had. So I was like, okay, where are you taking me? You're taking me away from my parents. And I look over and my dad is at the driver's side door and he and a bunch of other men are pulling on the door, trying to get it open and just yanking and yanking. And I did not hear my mother's voice anymore. She wasn't calling to get me out. So I don't know what happened to her. So I didn't know what happened to my mom. My dad is in a panic state trying to open a door. And I look over to this side and there is a man with a bandana over his eye like this. And there's blood coming down from his hand and it's going up his arm and there's blood coming down here. So I'm like, there's a man with a face full of blood. My dad is panicking. So, oh my God, something is seriously wrong. So then I started crying again. And then next thing I know, there's a house that was on the corner where this accident had taken place. And two girls who looked exactly the same, so I'm guessing now that they were twins, two girls who looked exactly the same came out, and whoever was holding me passed me off to one of the girls. And she had dark hair, and for whatever reason, now, when I envision this person, she looks like Annette Funicello. So I don't know why. Maybe there was something about her. She didn't offer me any Skippy peanut butter or anything like that. It was just like she in my memory now, she looks like Annette Funicello. So maybe it was she had dark hair and there was something about her features that reminded me of that actress. I don't know. But so her and her sister are trying to calm me down. They were trying to give me lemonade. They tried to give me candy. They tried to give me ice water. And all I kept screaming was that I wanted my mom and dad. That's all I wanted. And then next thing I know, my dad is there and he takes me from these horrible strangers who are trying to calm me down and save my life. These terrible, terrible people that I didn't know who they were. And that might be why I have a fear of strangers. I don't know. But yeah, so he took me and I found out, that mom was okay. And I calmed him down. I had my dad. I had my arms around my father. Everything was good. I was fine. I was upset and frazzled at what was going on. But other than that, I was fine. And I woke up. After having this dream, but sometimes 3 times a week for 2 years, I finally told my mom about it. I was just like, I was 12 years old, and I'm like, Mom, I've been having this weird dream over and over and over again for years. And I told her the dream, and when I told her that, her mouth just was like, what? And I was like, what? And she's like, that's not a dream. That's a memory. And then she said, when you were 2 years old, we had a car accident, and a bad one. She said, I was driving the car. We got rear-ended at, when I was turning over, she was going to turn onto that road on that corner. And some guy was not paying attention and rear-ended her back end and basically accordioned the car. And she's like, she said, basically, when the paramedics and the emergency services and everybody showed up, they saw the car and went, "Where are the dead?" Because they didn't think anybody in that car survived. So always have a seat for your kid. Like, I am living proof. I'm still here that car seats work, and I had a crappy one from the early days of car seats, and I'm still here. So because of the car seat, I'm alive. If there was no car seat, I would have been crushed right into the back seat of the driver's side. So hooray for car seats. But when I told her, I said, "Yeah, I heard you screaming and stuff like that." The reason why they were trying to get her out so much and why she was screaming to get me out so much was because the car was wedged shut, the door, because of the way it had been squished. And the way it had been hit, all the gas was leaking out of the car. So they were afraid of fires or explosions or anything like that. They didn't know what was going to trigger this thing and make it go poof with me and mom inside. So, mom wanted me out. And then I stopped hearing her screaming because she says, "You were out of the car. I was calm." I was like, "Whatever, everything's great now." And she's like, "My daughter's fine. Everything's good." And that's also why they were taking me so far away. Not only because I was two and I might get in the way, but also they wanted to get me away in case the car exploded. She didn't explain how they got her out. She was out before the emergency services arrived. But yeah, apparently the accident was so bad that accident prompted them, the city, to put a turning lane there, because this is before there was a turning lane. So there's now a turning lane there because of this accident. And yeah, so I was shocked. I was shocked that this was not a memory. And almost like as soon as she told me this, I was shocked. And then I didn't have it 3 times a week. It was more like, once a week or sometimes twice a week, but not often. And it didn't have the same impact emotionally on me anymore. I was like, okay, now that I know that I'm not crazy and this is just some weird ass dream that for some reason I'm just repeating over and over in my head, that this is a memory. And you can have memories at any time. It seemed less prevalent. And now it's like it's a part of my past, and I've let most of my past go now. So maybe it's just not that important to me anymore. But it does make an interesting story about dreaming. So now we're going to get to what prompted me to do this vlog today. And that is like entities or sleep paralysis or both. I honestly don't know what sleep paralysis is scientifically, like why the body does it. Like I know what it is. It was kind of like you're in a partially awake state. Your brain is waking up, but your body's still asleep, and so you can't move when you wake up. Like your eyes open up, and you're like physically can't move, and you freak out because you're paralyzed, right? I've experienced this in some weird shape or form. It's not exactly like that. And I do believe sometimes that what people experience is not just paralysis. I believe there is some sort of outside force that is keeping them from moving. So I'm not one of those people. There are some people who are like, it's sleep paralysis, and they've got that smarmy, condescending attitude that all of you are fools that don't believe that it's just simply sleep paralysis and things like that. I will never be like that. Because even if it is solely sleep paralysis, this is something that is very real to these people, and they are being terrified. And whether or not, for me, what happened with me is sleep paralysis or some entity, you know what? It is terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. And I've never experienced the common ones, like the Man in the Hat or the Hat Man. And I've also never experienced the old hag. And the Hat Man is something that actually very new for me to hear about it. I had not heard about it until I was watching some show about sleep paralysis and stuff like that. And the Hat Man, it's people will see a shadow person, but it's a shadow person with a hat. And it's like he's wearing a long trench coat and a hat, like a fedora hat. And he's just sort of standing there. And sometimes he's standing there, and when you see him, you start to get sleep paralysis, like he's doing something mentally. Or they will see him, and other shadow people will come out from wherever, and they'll be the ones holding them down while the Hat Man is just watching. So that one for me is, I've never experienced it. I don't want to experience something like that. I've never seen the man with the hat. So that's something that's new for me to hear, but apparently it's quite common. So I was surprised. And then there's the old hag that's been, as far as I know, for centuries that's been around, where you are asleep or you're on the verge of falling asleep, and all of a sudden you feel this pressure like somebody is on top of you, and you open your eyes and you see an old, ugly woman, like a really ugly woman, and that's why she's called the old hag. And she's like looking down at you, and just, she's trying to take your breath and trying to take your life because she's sitting on top of your chest. Sometimes she's holding the person's neck, trying to kill them, and they can't breathe and they can't move. Sometimes they can't speak. Sometimes they try and reach out for somebody. I mean, somebody could be sleeping in the bed with them. So, and this person does not wake up, and they don't understand why this person's not waking up, because they feel like they're screaming and they're struggling and they're moving on the bed, and they can't wake the other person up no matter what they do. So that would be absolutely terrifying. The experience I had was a little bit different. It felt a little bit different. I didn't feel pressure on my chest. I didn't feel pressure on my throat. My breathing was never cut off, but I felt pressure on my arms, like somebody was pushing my arms right here, or my shoulders, I guess, into the bed, and my legs, like right on top of my thighs. They just felt like my legs, my hip area, like I was being pushed down into the bed. And I never lost my breath. I never lost my ability to speak, but I felt like I was being pushed, like they were trying to push me through the bed, whoever this was. And I know I've spoken about this before, but I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I wanted to know who this was, because I can pretty much guarantee I was not dreaming. This was not a dream. I could feel the pressure, and it was like, okay, this isn't a dream. I don't know what's going on. And then part of my brain was going, is this sleep paralysis? Is this what it feels like? And then the other part of me was just like, who's doing this? And I got out, who are you? I physically said, who are you? And I couldn't see anybody. There was no hag, there was no hat man, there was nothing like that. And I felt, whatever this was, I felt like it had come right by my right ear. And it's kind of funny, but it's like scary, but kind of funny. It was almost like it came right to my ear. And when I asked who it was, the name it gave me in a very low, growly, kind of horror movie monster like voice, Jamie. And I was like, Jamie, stop. And it left. And I was like, I sat up, I turned the light on, nothing was in the room. And I felt like I should be more frightened than I was. But part of me was thinking, the entity's name is Jamie? Like, it was like I was like, you hear other demon names and all this kind of stuff, like I know a bunch of people who've had this, and the names they experience when they're like possessed and stuff are these horrible, horrible names. And my demon entity is named Jamie. And I remember sitting there thinking that, like, what the hell was that? Like, it was like, I'm like, and I just was like, no, Jamie, this ain't happening. Like, it was like, no. And that was it. I never felt that kind of pressure or anything ever again. But I have felt other things. The second incident actually did scare me a little bit. I was lying in my bed and I was preparing for sleep, and I had the blanket up to underneath my shoulders, so under my armpits, and I had my arms on the outside of the blanket, and I was just lying there like I lie. I'm a back sleeper, so I was sleeping on my back, and I was drifting off, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody grabbed my wrists and was pulling them in this direction and trying to pull me out of the bed. And I remember I'm leaning back like this with all my strength, trying to not get pulled out of the bed. And I'm like, like this, I'm pushing myself into the bed while whatever was holding onto my wrist was trying to pull me out. And I couldn't speak this time. I could breathe, but I couldn't speak. And I was trying to get the words out to stop, and it wasn't coming. Like, it was just like, like this. And then finally I just went, no! And I pulled and it released. And that was it. Like, it was just like, I let go. I sat up, and again, I turned on the light, and I looked at my arm, my wrist, my arms, and I was looking for bruising, because I've seen documentaries where people do get pulled out of bed, and they're pulled by their ankles, or they're pulled by their wrists or something like that, and they've got bruising, like finger marks and stuff all over their body. And I didn't have any of that. I've never had marks, knock on wood. I've never had marks from anything trying to do something to me. So there was nothing like that. So I kind of sat there and was like, now, did I actually, have physically being pulled? Or was this a dream? Or was this a form of sleep paralysis? I don't know. But it scared me enough that I didn't want to happen again. And I tried to dismiss it as just being sleep paralysis, or something to do in a half waking, half sleeping state. But I have noticed now that I cannot sleep with my arms outside the bed. It's like those people who leave their foot, and they're hot, so they stick one foot out. And you've seen Paranormal Activity, right? Where that's how the ghost gets her and pulls her and drags her down the hall. So that for me was just like same thing, where it's like I don't want to put my arms out anymore, so I always sleep now with the blanket up to here, and the only thing that's you can see is my head sticking out. So no arms, no hands outside the blanket. I'm sure, because I'm one of those people, I fall asleep on my back, but I wake up in some sort of gymnastic contortionist position or something. I move around a lot in my sleep, and so I'm sure I take them out of the blankets after that. But in order for me to fall asleep, I gotta have the blankets up to here and everything's under the covers. So now we are going to get to the dream that I had earlier this week. And this dream is what prompted this video. And this, I don't think so much a sleep paralysis as this was some sort of dream, but it was enough that made me kind of mix it in with the sleep paralysis, because I did feel some sort of pressure. And all I can say is, this might be a relation to stress, because I have been a little bit stressed this week. So I don't know. It might have something to do with that. I'm not sure. But I drifted off to sleep at night, and it was like the dream started right away. And it was my brother Braden and I, and we were in a cafe together. And it was like there was these guys. There was all these really big, burly guys there, and they were like on strike for something. So I don't know if they were on strike for the cafe or what they were, but they were like all striking for something. And they didn't like the fact that my brother and I were in this cafe and we were about to eat the food, and they didn't like that. So these guys all stood up while we're sitting at this table, and they surrounded our table. They didn't look at us. They all turned their backs to us, looking out. But they didn't want anybody seeing us, and they didn't want us looking out. And then all of a sudden, somebody from behind me reached around like this and took their hand and did this. And they covered my nose and they covered my mouth to stop me from eating the food. And I remember saying, please stop, I can't breathe. Please stop. Stop this, I can't breathe. And I just kept repeating it over and over again. But the reason why I think this might have been a dream was because the words weren't muffled, and I could breathe. Like I wasn't, I obviously didn't wake up unable to breathe. So that's why I was wondering. I was like, it wasn't like this. It wasn't like I was saying, please stop, please stop. It sounded like what I'm talking right now, like, please stop, I can't breathe. And it was weird. It was just like, that was it. That was the dream. And then all of a sudden I woke up, and this is the part that kind of scared me. It made me uncomfortable enough that I'm aware of it and I haven't forgotten it. I opened my eyes, I'm still lying on my back. So this is where we're talking like in the minutes after I fall asleep. And I opened my eyes, and all of a sudden, like right here was a face. And it was in the mist, and it was kind of skeletal and white. And it was just sort of like it was looking at me, like right this close to my face. And it was just a millisecond, and then it was gone. And it just dissipated. And that caught me off guard. It was like I was waking up from a dream that was not a happy dream. And I've done that before, where I wake up from a nightmare, And I just sort of lie there for a little bit to get my bearings, to make sure, okay, where am I? Where am I? I'm at home, okay. And that's what I started to do. I opened my eyes to do this ritual, and all of a sudden there was a face that wasn't a human face, but not a monster face. It was just like a misty skeletal face. And I can't even tell you, there was no features to it. It was just a featureless face. There we go. And then it was gone within less than a second. So I don't know. I was like, is this part of the dream? I don't know. So I did, after that happened, I just sort of, it made me nervous. I wouldn't say I was scared. I didn't feel malevolence, and I can feel malevolence. I think I have an ability to read people pretty well and read situations, and I didn't feel anything evil. Maybe angry, but not evil. Not even mischievous. Just, I don't know. It was weird. It was weird. And after it dissipated, I just sort of was like, okay. And I did the same thing. I'll check my bearings, whatever. Maybe this was still part of the dream. Maybe I was half in, half out, like sleep paralysis. But I didn't feel any pressure on my face. I didn't feel anything physically. Just kind of the nervousness of the sudden shock of seeing a face when I opened my eyes. So I don't, was this paranormal? I don't know. It might have just been my brain dealing with all the crap that I've been putting myself through this past couple of weeks, because I've been very stressed. I'm a lifelong insomniac. Even as a child, I do not fall asleep well. It takes me a long time to fall asleep, and I'd have to say a maximum of 6 hours is all I can get in. Every once in a while, maybe once every 3 months, I'll be like really tired, so I'll sleep for a long time. But if I get more than 6 hours sleep a night, then I'm very surprised. So like, I'm an insomniac by nature. It's just the way I was born. It's just the way I am. And I've been stressed, and I overthink. So I mean, there was the problem there. So I'm thinking, could this just all be my body reacting to my brain screwing me up, type of thing. So, but the face, that's what caught me off guard. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. But I kind of put that in here with the sleep paralysis and the entities, because of that face. It was just like, okay. So now that I've told you some of my dreams that I've had and the possibilities of what they could be if they're paranormal, it makes me sometimes wonder, what exactly are dreams? Like, are they, something that reveals your present state of mind? Are they future premonitions? Are they wishful thinking of things that you want? Are they visitations from the spirit world, both good and bad? Is it sleep paralysis? Are you lucid dreaming? Or is it just garbage thoughts, like useless thoughts in your brain that you don't need anymore, that you just, you put them in dreams so your conscious mind doesn't have to waste its time on useless information. I've heard that before too, that's all dreams are. It's just garbage thoughts that, when you put it in dreams, you can get them out and get it out of your system, type of thing. And there's a part of me that thinks all of that is true. It's all those things. It's like, a dream is not just one thing. It could be the scientific thing, when you're having the rapid eye movement, and you have to have dreams in order to be able to function while you're awake and stuff. I believe all that. And but I also believe that there's some paranormal things. I do believe, without a fact, that my pets that I've now passed on have visited me. My very first pet, my cat named Putty, I'm 100% positive that he visited me. My dog who died in 2021, she has visited me constantly. I had another cat, and I swear she jumps on my bed sometimes, and it's not the cats that I have now. I fully believe that it was this one little teeny tiny kitten cat that I had, and because it feels like her walking on the bed. And so I do believe that dreams, you can be visited by pets and old relatives, and just people in general. I believe that. I believe you can predict the future with your dreams if you really train your mind to do it. You could probably do it all the time. I'm like Edgar Casey. I think dreams are all those. It's a mixture of the scientific and the paranormal coming together, and I think that's pretty damn cool. You know, I think what a wonderful world to live in, where you can make up your own world, you can make up your own dreams, and you can be visited by, past relatives whom you miss dearly. Um, you can control it. Like if you're having a nightmare, you can shut it off. Like I think all of that's fascinating. Dreams fascinate me, and I think it makes the world a much more interesting place, I think. So there have been other dreams that I've had, but that I remember distinctly. Um, there was one that I think had a shadow person in it, but it wasn't my shadow person. It was somebody else because that friend of mine kept getting hurt every time this little creature kept showing up and things like that. Was that just a dream, or was that actually a shadow person that was following my friend around? I don't know. And I'm not going to tell her because I don't want to freak her out. So, it's one of those things. What are dreams? What are your dreams? And I'm not talking about, future desires or anything like that. What are the dreams that you've had that have stuck out so strongly in your mind? Put them in put it in the comment section below. What dreams have made you believe that the situation is paranormal? What dreams freak you out, or have you had sleep paralysis? Have you experienced the old hag? Have you experienced the Hat Man? Can you lucid dream? Tell me what dreams you've had that make you think these things, like that it's more, or do you just think it's completely scientific and I'm just talking out my butt? Tell me what you think. Put it in the comment section below what you think dreams are, or what dreams you've had. I'd really like to read them. I find dreams fascinating and I find them interesting, and I do believe that they are the scientific and the paranormal coming together. Sometimes they're just garbage thoughts that you need to get rid of out of your brain so it doesn't clutter up all the good stuff that you have to think about every day. And sometimes I think that it's a spirit guide trying to save your butt so that you don't have a heart attack in your sleep while you're having a nightmare. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. I think they're cool, and obviously they're necessary or we wouldn't be having them. And I think that wraps it up for the day. So like I said, put it in the comment section below. I really would like to hear it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because I think you would like to hear more of my stories. Yes, yes. And be sure to hit subscribe on my other channels. I have Kyla Life is a Story, and right now I just have Kyla McCall, which is my singing videos right now. So be sure to subscribe to those, subscribe to this one, press that like button, and make me very, very happy. I will see you soon, and remember, just because your five senses can't detect it, doesn't mean it's not really happening. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody!